The alarm rang at 4:30 a.m., just like it did every day. João got up slowly, trying not to wake his wife and 2 children who were still asleep in their small 2-room apartment. He put the kettle on the stove, made the strong black coffee he liked, and sat for a moment in the kitchen chair, looking out the window at the still dark sky. It was another workday, just one more among so many. At 48, João had been a rideshare driver for almost 5 years. He had driven buses, trucks, and had even worked as a night watchman. But after the company he worked for went bankrupt, driving on his own was the solution he found to pay the bills, keep his dignity, and support his family. He always wore the same light blue shirt, neatly ironed, and dress pants. He believed that appearance said a lot about the respect one had for their own work. He cleaned the car every day before heading out. It might be a simple car, but it'll always be clean and smell good, he told himself. That morning, as usual, he said a brief silent prayer before leaving. May I meet good people along the way, and may my family never lack anything. Already behind the wheel, he turned on the app and started his day. The first rides were always peaceful. Construction workers heading to the job site, women cleaning office buildings, people like him who knew the value of every penny. He spoke kindly to everyone, offered water, played soft music on the radio. Some thanked him with a sincere smile. Others didn't even notice him. But João didn't mind. He was there to serve, as he had learned early on in life. That day, business was good. He had already completed 5 rides when the sun began to rise, casting a golden hue over the still quiet city streets. He stopped for a few minutes near a bakery, bought a pastry and some juice to eat in the car. While chewing, he thought of his children. One dreamed of becoming a firefighter, the other wanted to be a soccer player. I just want them to have better opportunities than I had, he murmured. At noon, his phone pinged with a new ride request. It was a trip to an upscale neighborhood in the city. João accepted the ride, adjusted his mirrors, and hit the road. He didn't know it yet, but that ride would change his life forever. João arrived at the given address a few minutes early. It was an impressive house, with a tall iron gate and well-kept gardens. He parked the car carefully and waited for the passenger. Soon, a young man appeared, wearing designer clothes and headphones, speaking loudly on his phone. Without taking his eyes off the phone, he got into the back seat and, with an impatient gesture, ordered, "Let's go, man. I'm late." João replied with a polite smile. "Good morning, sir. I'm starting the ride now." The young man scoffed and continued his phone conversation, talking about investments, parties, and people João had never heard of. During the first few minutes, the driver stayed quiet. He knew that sometimes it was better not to start a conversation. But all it took was a small incident for everything to fall apart. As João turned onto a narrow, congested street, he had to brake suddenly to avoid a cyclist. The young man, irritated, yanked off his headphones and yelled, "What the hell was that, man? Trying to kill me here? Learn how to drive, old man." João, keeping his voice calm, replied, "I'm sorry, sir." The cyclist appeared out of nowhere. It was either that or hit him. "Oh sure. You probably learned to drive on a donkey cart, huh? Bet you didn't even finish school. That's why you're out here driving for scraps." João felt his face heat up. The words cut like a knife. But he took a deep breath and kept driving. It wasn't the first time he'd been insulted, but this time was worse. The passenger, laughing to himself, started recording with his phone, pointing the camera at the rearview mirror. "Check this out, guys. The king of driving. Uber fail. Almost killed me and still wants to lecture me." João politely asked not to be filmed. "Sir, please don't record me. That's not right." "Right? Right is getting a real job, not playing pretend chauffeur. You should be thankful someone like me is even riding in your dirty little car." The insult hit deep. João felt himself shrink, like the world around him had stopped. It wasn't just anger. It was humiliation. He looked down at the steering wheel, gripping it tightly. He swallowed hard and kept driving, praying for the ride to end soon. When they reached the destination, the young man got out without saying thank you, still laughing. João stayed there for a few minutes, motionless. A single tear rolled down his cheek. That night, the video appeared on a popular social media platform. It quickly went viral. The caption mocked him, "Driver of the Year." LOL. Cruel comments started pouring in. They called him dumb, useless. Some laughed at his faded shirt, his soft voice. Others said he deserved the embarrassment. João watched the video on his phone in silence. His wife walked into the room and saw him sitting with his head down, eyes red. She sat beside him and, holding his hand, said, "Don't let this break you, João. You are so much more than what they said." But at that moment, he just couldn't believe it. In the days that followed, João barely left the house. His phone kept buzzing with notifications, each one more painful than the last. He tried to ignore them, but it was impossible. The humiliation had left the virtual world and was now creeping into his real life. At the corner market, he heard muffled giggles. One employee whispered to another, "That's him, the guy from the video. He's a joke on the internet now." João lowered his head and walked out without buying anything. For the first time in years, he felt ashamed of who he was. The job he had always done with dignity now seemed, in the eyes of others, like something to be ashamed of. Even driving his car, his only source of income, had become a burden. At home, he tried to hide the pain from his children, but they could tell. The oldest asked, "Dad, why are people saying bad things about you online? You didn't do anything." João didn't know what to say. He felt a lump in his throat and just hugged the boy tightly, trying to hold back tears. "Don't worry, son. It'll pass." But inside, he didn't believe it. His wife, Clara, was his rock. She tried to keep the household together, handled the bills that were starting to fall behind, cooked with whatever they had. At night, they sat together in silence. The love was still there, but the words were missing. Too ashamed to return to work, João started avoiding even the neighbors. One, who used to ask for rides, now avoided him like he was contagious. Another laughed when he saw João at the gate. "Gonna make another video today, champ?" For the first time, João thought about giving up. He looked at the car parked in the driveway as if it were an enemy. He thought about selling it. He thought about disappearing. That night, in the dark living room, he whispered to his wife, his voice trembling, "I can't take it anymore, Clara. It feels like everything I've built came crashing down because of one single ride. One passenger. One humiliation." She gripped his hand tightly and replied, "That doesn't define who you are. You're an honest, hard-working man who's never turned his back on anyone. This will pass. And when it does, you'll still be proud of your story." But João didn't have the strength to believe that. Not that night. That night, he rested his head on the couch and cried silently. For his wounded dignity. For the shame. For the helplessness. He didn't know it yet, but something would change soon. The storm wouldn't last forever. The next morning was gray, but Clara, as always, kept the light on inside their home. While João was still lying in bed, she made coffee and came into the living room with her phone in hand and wide eyes. "João, look at this." At first, he hesitated. He didn't want to see anything else from the internet. But there was something different in her voice, something he hadn't heard in days. Hope. She showed him a video. A well-known digital influencer who often spoke about social justice had commented on the incident. He had taken the passenger's video, flipped the narrative, and spoke firmly. This man, this driver named João, represents millions of Brazilians who wake up early, face traffic, earn little, but carry dignity in every action. And being treated with contempt for that is unacceptable. It's time to rewrite this story. The video went viral quickly. But this time for a different reason. Thousands of comments began to pour in, this time full of support. "João, you're a real-life hero. My dad's a driver too. I know what you all go through. Don't let this bring you down. We're with you." An online campaign was launched. #StayStrongJoe. People began looking for him, wanting to help. Someone found his full name and started a crowdfunding campaign to support him financially. Within a few hours, the amount raised already covered 3 months of expenses. João, stunned, watched all of it with teary eyes. For the first time in days, he smiled. But it wasn't just any smile. It was a quiet, tentative smile, the kind that comes from someone still hurting but finally beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel. He received calls from journalists, invitations for interviews, and messages from drivers all over the country saying he had inspired a change in behavior. Even a group of lawyers offered free legal assistance to sue the man who had humiliated him. On a television program, He was invited to tell his side of the story. Sitting in front of the cameras, wearing the same blue shirt he always wore for work, João spoke with simplicity. "I never wanted fame. I just wanted respect. I treat everyone with kindness, and all I ask is to be treated the same way." The audience gave him a standing ovation. Clara, emotional, hugged him on set. Their children, watching their father on TV, pointed proudly. "That's Daddy. Daddy's on TV." But what João felt wasn't fame. It was redemption. Finally, the world was seeing who he truly was. And more importantly, he was starting to see himself again. Months had passed since the day João's humiliation made headlines across the country. And so did his story of resilience. The crowdfunding campaign raised more than he had ever imagined. With the money, he paid off debts, refurbished his car, and still had enough left to invest in an old dream. Opening his own small executive transport business, focused on the elderly and people with reduced mobility. He named it Taxi, in honor of the very thing that had almost been taken from him: his dignity. More than just a business, the project became a symbol of empathy. Other drivers joined him. They formed a support group where they talked about respect on the road, workers' rights, and also mental health, a topic once ignored among so many invisible laborers. João began receiving invitations to speak at schools, companies, and even universities. He spoke about the value of honest work, the pain of prejudice, and the strength of dignity. At each talk, his voice would tremble at first, but would grow steady as he looked into the eyes of an emotional audience. He was no longer just a driver. He had become an example. One day, after a lecture, he was caught off guard. A young man waited for him outside, head down. As João approached, the man removed his sunglasses and, ashamed, said, "João, I'm that passenger. The one who humiliated you." João stopped. His heart raced. For a moment, it all came back. The pain, the shame, the anger. The young man continued. "I have no excuse. Only shame. I've seen what you've built. I've seen who you are. And I realized how small I was." João looked him in the eyes, took a deep breath, and said, "Shame is the first step toward change. And everyone deserves a chance to learn." He extended his hand. The young man took it, eyes filled with tears. It was the end of a cycle. Today, João still drives. But now, with his head held high, his self-esteem restored, and a story that inspires thousands. His children, now older, speak of him as a hero. Clara, his partner through it all, still smiles each morning as she watches him head out the door in the same light blue shirt, now paired with a small badge that reads, "Founder, Taxi." Humiliation didn't define him. His response to injustice wasn't hate. It was dignity. And that's what made João a giant.